Hey, I want to start off by saying that I do not believe in hitting kids. Physical punishment is not going to teach your kids the skills that they actually need. And I'm also going to say something that might surprise some people. Gentle parenting and being mean to your kids are not the only two choices. I see a lot of that on social media. It's not okay, I don't think, to be mean to your kids, to be swearing at your kids, to be even threatening to hit them, and then say like, well, I'm just against gentle parenting, which is also seen as like not doing anything. Those are not the only two choices here. So we're going to talk about why you don't have to pick one. You don't have to be strict and scary or explain everything gently and endlessly. There's actually other options, maybe just a third option, but I think there's other options. The goal of the option that I want to share with you today is to raise kids that other people don't want to hit, and kids that know how to listen, kids that know how to take correction from other adults. They know how to handle disappointment. They know how to be coached. They know how to respond respectfully when someone tells them no, when they don't get what they want. This is what we're teaching our kids. It doesn't mean that they're instantly this way or that we're going to punish that out of them. We're teaching them. The world is not always gentle. Teachers are going to give them instructions. Employers are going to give them instructions. Bosses give feedback. There's critics in our world. Coaches are going to say, do it again. They're going to tell them to not talk back and not have an explanation of why they couldn't or whatever. I taught my kids, they did Taekwondo. We did it as a family. And then we taught other people. Once we were brown belts and black belts, we were teaching. And it was so powerful to tell kids that all they need to say when a correction is made is yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. Our kids need the skills to handle that. They need to have places in life where they have to handle that. A lot of parents that I work with are very thoughtful parents, and they really care about their kids. I know you do too. And I know that you don't want to be yelling at your kids. Nobody feels good about it. And so even when I see videos of parents saying like, I didn't yell at my kids for a week and nothing got done and we were late to everything. It's like, it's still not how you want to show up. And they don't want to be harsh. Nobody feels good going to bed at night thinking, I hope that's not all that my kids remember about me, is that I was mean to them or I said this thing. And I know a lot of parents are trying not to parent the way that they were parented. And they're trying really hard to be patient and understanding. And I think that's part of like explaining everything. And some of it is because a lot of times we're trying to justify our decisions. Maybe we don't know if we're doing it right. So we're trying to give enough information that we get something, positive in the feedback from our kids. And so we soften the corrections that we're making, or we negotiate on every boundary. We want our kids to feel heard and understood. And I don't think that any of that comes from a bad place, but what happens in that is that kids tend to argue more. They use your words against you. Well, you said, or we always do it this way, or you told me that I'm in charge of this, or whatever. They push back more. There's going to be way more refusals. It actually doesn't help them. And a lot of times parents end up thinking like, this doesn't work. So when they start to work with me, a lot of times they're thinking the same thing. They're like, well, this sounds gentle, like, because I don't believe in a lot of the punishments, and I talk about consequences in a different way. So people are like, well, if they have to have consequences, like, what are we doing, right? And they may think like, we've tried that and it doesn't work, But here's the truth: is kids don't need endless explanations. They need leadership, and your child is not the CEO. They're not the CEO of the family. They are not the HR department. in the family. They are actually invited at times to be on the committee, but they are not on the committee that approves every decision. And they don't need that anxiety. They need to have a bubble of being the kids and not having to make all the decisions and not having to understand the why behind everything. I'm not saying we never explain anything to our kids. I'm just talking about when our kids are kind of ruling the family and are the ones that are play that role in the family. Like, we only do what the kids want to do kind of thing. And what you'll find is that they disagree less and less on what it is they want to do. There are kids that kind of work themselves into not wanting to do anything because of all of the choices and the possibilities that are thrown at them, and also because their own way their brain works. They might just want to stay home all the time and play video games. And we as the parents get to decide how much of that and when we're going to do something else. Kids today tend to feel a lot more anxious. There's a lot of anxiety in kids, and they are also more reactive when they carry these roles. They're more demanding. They kind of think that the world should center around what they want, and there's very little awareness that there's other people. And it's in our families that we learn that there's other people, there's other ideas, there's other opinions. Kids are not built to run the family. They are built to grow inside the safety of leadership. Kids feel calmer when parents are clear and consistent and confident and in charge. And you don't have to yell to get there. And you also don't have to stomp around and be like, I'm in charge, listen to me. And I think it's a huge relief for parents when you start to realize, like, you don't have to negotiate every single instruction. Turn that game off, come to dinner, pick that up. Those are instructions, not debates. And kids can learn to give good responses, even that 17-year-old that's rolling his eyes when you say it. And the beautiful thing about it is these boundaries are going to help your kids to feel safer. It's going to lower their anxiety. I've seen it over and over without even addressing the anxiety that's there. It's just amazing. There's a huge misunderstanding right now in our parenting culture. People think that boundaries hurt kids, but they also think that the boundaries are like something that the kids need to respect, that like, you need to respect my boundaries. We have this huge, I think, misunderstanding of what boundaries are and what it's about. But real boundaries, like if we think about building a yard and creating space for kids to be able to be kids or even be teens in, the boundaries are where it stops, where it starts and where it stops, and what they can do inside of that area. So I just want you to imagine for a minute, from a different perspective. You may already feel like you're in a house like this, but I want you to imagine growing up, and maybe you did. But I want you to go back to that then and think about this. But imagine growing up in a house where you can scream at adults, where you can break things, and where nobody can control you. Nobody can make you be safe. You can ignore instructions. You can refuse every responsibility. And at first, it may feel like freedom, but for you as a parent, it may feel like, well, that's how it is, but I can't do anything about it. But for the kids too, it also is very confusing. It's not meant to be this way. And the real world doesn't work that way. So when we teach kids that nobody's in charge of them, they're in charge of themselves, I really feel like that's a disservice. Because if you are out of control in yourself, even as an adult, if you have out of control behaviors, if you're driving a car out of control, if you are out of control in your body and you're hurting people, even if you're yelling at other people in public, like the society, we have rules and we have expectations. And somebody is going to take control of you if you are out of control. And so we're teaching this in a way that isn't getting us where we want to be. Because the real world, teachers have expectations. Coaches have expectations. Employers have expectations. And kids who grow up without limits, without realizing that this is how it is in my family, because we're trying to be like, let everybody be their own person, and we don't want to, be like our parents were and be too strict. They struggle. They struggle later for sure, but they are struggling right now. The kids I work with, 99% of the kids that have ADHD, autism, all these other diagnoses, right? They also have high levels of anxiety, which leads to depression. And anxiety and depression in kids comes out in behaviors. The younger your kid is, the more anxiety they have, the more depression they have. It's going to come out in their behaviors. And this is showing in their behaviors is not supposed to be a life sentence of like, well, you're just going to have anxiety your whole life. You're just going to have depression, or you're going to have bipolar, or all of this. Like they're not bad kids, but we're also want to help them to know how to move through this. This isn't how it's meant to be. And a lot of times it's just because no one has taught them the skills that they needed. And some of that is because you as a parent may not have been taught that you have to teach your kids these skills. We can't outsource this. This has to be taught in the home. I really, really believe that. Even if because of behaviors, you have to send your child away somewhere to learn the skills that they need to function, or they have to go to detention because they've broken rules that are beyond the rules of the household, you still have the responsibility in your household to teach these skills. They are going to need it. What you are really seeing is lagging skills. When you see behaviors like arguing, defiance, explosive reactions, refusing instructions, meltdowns over being told no, it's, what is it called? Demand avoidance. Sometimes parents think that, well, it's because of their diagnosis, or they're being disruptive or manipulative. But what you're really seeing is lagging skills. And it's our job in our kids' childhood to teach them that. Life will teach them one way or another, right? But that's not the path that we want for our kids. We want them to be on a good path, and we want to have these boundaries and rules within the family, especially when we start seeing those behaviors. And I want you to know what to do about it, so that they can learn and grow. There are some skills that some kids learn naturally, and then there's other kids that don't learn it. If they have ADHD, they don't learn emotional regulation without being taught that. And so the parent has to know how to teach it. They don't know how to handle frustration. And they don't have a high tolerance for that. And so we have to help them to build that. They don't necessarily know how to initiate a task or handle embarrassment or taking correction. They have a negative internal self-talk. They can't handle making a mistake. These kids don't know magically what to do, and they didn't pick it up. I mean, even if your family's like, we've always had it this way in our family, like they know the rules, right? Like they can tell you what the rule is. They can tell you even what's going to happen if they break the rule. But in the moment when they need to access it the most, that's when they're struggling. And that's where it has to be taught. And a lot of times kids learn that at school or somewhere else because there's enough boundaries around, and there's rules and there's structure that's set up. And I can help you to do that at home, even without a whole team of people, because that's where they really need to be able to access it. It has to be taught, and it has to be practiced, just like reading, just like riding a bike, just like learning math facts. And it's invaluable. Okay, so at this point, this is when a lot of parents are like, Dr. Michelle, we have tried teaching this. We have done all the things that you say to do. We've explained it 100 times. and the behavior is just worse. They don't say this when they're working with me, but before we start to work together, it's like, why should we try something else? And my answer is the same. Yes. And we have to keep teaching, and we have to keep practicing, and we keep training. Just because I can't shoot a 3-point basketball, make it into the hoop every single time doesn't mean I'm just like, oh, well, I tried and I can't do it. If I want that skill, I have to keep working at it. I have to keep practicing. I have to fail. I have to try again. And I might have to learn some other techniques so that I can do it. And kids don't learn emotional control in one conversation or one consequence or one parenting strategy. They learn it through consistent repetition over and over in a safe place with strong leadership. And I want to say to you that your home is the one place that this has to happen. Every kid needs at least one place where this kind of learning happens. For some kids, they might do better at school, or they do fine if they go to residential treatment or some other program. But at home, they really need that place for these skills to happen, because this is where their core relationships and this is are built, right? And this is what's going to carry them through. Their behaviors are like, of course we want to deal with those at home, but what we're doing at the same time is we're working on their relationship with themselves, their relationship with their siblings, their relationship with parents, their relationship with other adults. It's not perfect, and you're gonna feel like you're failing a lot, because this is one of the hardest places also. But it does change, and it's a place where boundaries are very clear, where behavior is corrected, where parents know what to do when this happens, when whatever it is this is. Skills are taught, and they're taught in everyday ordinary things that maybe you've let go of because it's been so challenging. So you're not doing that because it's so hard. It's like we can't sit at the table, or we can't ride in the same car, or whatever it is, right? And so we kind of give up and we just accommodate. But we don't want to just accommodate at home. We want to teach these skills. Respect is something that kids learn. And I have ways to help them to learn that without just yelling at your kids to be more respectful. That isn't helping. And the parent learns how to stay steady. Doesn't mean that you're always going to be calm, or that you have to always be perfect in how you do it, but you are going to be steady and consistent. Not harsh, not permissive, not always trying something new, but feeling very confident in what you are doing. In closing, I want to say that the goal of parenting isn't to control kids. It's not to avoid every hard moment. The goal is to raise capable human beings at the highest level that they can be capable. And then, of course, they're going to grow and change too. But we want kids that can listen, that can regulate their emotions and their behaviors, that they can handle disappointment, they can take correction, and they can function in the world. And we don't want kids that are just afraid, and so that's why they behave. They don't have to have fear to behave. And we also don't want kids that are pushing all the adults around them or all the people that are close to them in their lives to the breaking point. We want kids that have the skills to succeed. In other words, kids that other people don't want to hit, right? Remember, I started out saying I'm not in favor of hitting kids. I don't think that that's the way to do it. But we also want to raise kids that other people don't want to hit. And the way we get there is not by yelling. It isn't going to happen through punishment. It isn't endless negotiating. It's clear leadership, strong boundaries, and teaching skills that kids are missing. When parents learn how to do that, when you learn how to do that, everything is going to start to change. So my question to you is, what are you waiting for? Let's get started. Look at my website, set up the Lifeline call, and let's go. Let's change it. Let's turn it around.